Well, you know, if you'd have given me the sticks on this one, Kurt, probably would have been a little bit more interesting flight video, but you leave it to a pro pilot, you get what you get.
We'd have needed a wider angle lens, that's for sure. To get all the pieces in frame.
Come on. Come on. I'd have brought it back in one piece.
You have a little,
I'd have brought it back in one box.
Lacerations all over yourself.
One box.
I
don't like helicopters.
Go away, helicopter. I don't like you. You're cutting me up.
Oh boy,
That's why we don't do that, Rob.
Yes, you're right. Let's jump into model characteristics. Assembly 3.5 out of 5.
Yes, one thing you're going to find about the Mostro is the manual's online. It's digital manual, which is good because it can always be updated instead of having old paper and they try to get the message out. What you'll find though is if you have zero assembly experience for a helicopter kit, especially larger format, it's going to give you all the steps to part A to part B to part C and stuff like that. But as far as keep this in mind.
Yeah.
This may affect that.
There's going to be a lot of assumed knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And it's more of an advanced manual in that it doesn't baby step you through a lot of those things. So if you have experience, it's straightforward. Even if you don't have experience, you'll get this thing put together and it'll look like this on the bench when you're done. But then when you go to fly, you may realize, well, I wish I'd have done that. I wish I'd adjusted this differently. I wish I'd have taken this into consideration. They don't really give you a whole lot of guidance as far as radio placement and stuff. They give you the general. They give you pathing, which is nice. So overall, the manual, the assembly goes as depicted in the manual. So you feel bad kind of giving it a 3.5 versus and manual worked. It was 1-to-1 and it went together. But if you look at this in this class, there are manuals that are more comprehensive than the Avant Mostro manual. And that's the bottom line.
Sure.
All the necessary steps are there, though. You will have to print it off. It's several pages, 70-some pages when you're done. So
that's too much like reading.
It gets up there.
All right, compatibility, meaning compatibility to parts other than ones furnished by Avant or manufactured by other manufacturers. We gave it a 5 out of 5, excuse me.
Yeah, from a compatibility. And if you just look at like the assembly, does everything fit? Yes. Compatibility rolls right back into that. Did they take into mind, I'm going to have to be putting in I may use an external BEC.
But you don't have to use one particular brand of motor.
Right, in some kits you'll get your hands on, you're like, what kind of motor were they putting in this? Where were those wires exiting to give you only this path? Or what kind of flybarless controller were they using? Because mine, the wires are so. This does a really good job of giving flexibility and of course that pathing, that wire pathing, significant wire pathing right down the side that we talked about. So
well, you and I have commented since we saw this on the simplicity of it. I mean, it really is a basic.
It's two-piece frame, man.
Very simple.
Yeah, it's top transmission and two-piece frame, and that's it. And the thing is, from a compatibility too, even from a cell or from a battery pack perspective, you can go way up on your batteries. So we have 5,000 6S's in there. They allow up to 8,000 milliamp packs.
Yeah, well, this being an open bottom design on the
you've got
tray,
all this additional space to the skid rail.
Yeah.
So you can really put some beefy packs in there. So then on top of the electronics, you have just the batteries themselves. You have a real broad range of compatibility there. So
that brings us to part quality, 4.5 out of 5.
It's nicely machined aluminum. Everything fits together extremely well. It's what you'd expect, I guess. At this point, helical cut gears and stuff. The carbon fiber was flawless. No frays, no fuzzies at the edge or anything. And everything slipped together nicely, so there was definitely tight tolerances adhered to because everything lined up and everything went together well. So and they use the good stuff where it's necessary, and then like on the skids, it's plastic, a couple tubes of aluminum.
As long as the plastic holds up,
it's tough. Plastic's great because it's really cheap to replace too. So
exactly. All right, all up weight, average high came in at 12 pounds.
Yeah, we're seeing some. The lighter the better. Let's say even though you can accommodate bigger packs. And you can put a higher wattage motor on there and stuff. You can power through a 12-pound 700 size aircraft, no problem. But it's awful nice when you have an 11 or a 10 3/4 or a 10.5 pounder, because it gives you that much more flexibility in terms of less weight, less power required, longer run times, more agile in the air, less mass, lower mass that you have to fight against all of those extreme 3D maneuvers. The tail doesn't have to. It's just like it just goes on and on. Kind of, the lighter the weight, the better. But so it's at the average high mark for sure, 12 pounds. But we've seen quite a few others in this class come in at 12 as well. So.
All right, cost average. You got to keep in mind when you get into a helicopter this size, doing it on a budget is not as easy to do as it is on smaller ones. I mean,
absolutely.
There's going to be an inherent amount of cost that goes into this that you just have to absorb. And
Well, it rings in at the magic $949 in price. So that seems to be the $949, $949.99. You see a lot of the helicopters in this class kind of come in, so they have to stick to that price point to make it within its class and attractive. But as you go through and start looking at repair costs and things like that, that's a different category altogether. But getting it up in the air sometimes is a lot cheaper than keeping it up in the air.
Oh yeah,
it's like, I got it. And likewise, you rarely see where it costs you a fortune on the front end, and it's really, really cheap to repair. It's usually expensive to repair then too.
Yeah.
So we can expect average repair costs with an average initial cost, and that's the way it's set up. And then so much of the cost. I mean, $949 of this right now, street price, is the kit, but then you're going to spend, as it's sitting right now, we're $2,961.29, $2,961 on the bench with the components we chose.
Sure.
Now we've got a $500 servo pack in there, the real high-end servos from High Tech. When you get into a power plant that we chose, the Contronic stuff's not cheap. And between the Jive ESC and the Contronic Pyro motor, you've got $1,000 roughly.
Yeah.
Looking at $549.99, $562, more than $1,000. So you're $1,100 right there just in these two components.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Depending on the choices you make, you can cut some of that cost off your final all up. But the kit's $949, so it's where it should be.
Yep. All right, that brings us to pilot experience. Start with flight characteristics. Gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Explain.
Explain. Well, what are we flying? Are we flying the helicopter when we fly it? Come on, Rob.
Yeah, you're flying the gyro.
The controller, fly barless controller.
Okay.
It's not like a.
Failed at that one.
Yeah, you didn't do very well. But
I was going to call it a Euro.
I put it on the spot. Yeah, but it would have some disease.
I don't know why. I'm not flying anything because I don't fly helicopters.
When
so that
you
was
fly,
like baiting me.
Yeah, that's true. When you fly, larger custom kit helicopters, like you, you're flying the fly barless controller. That's the feel. You get used to that feel and responsiveness and the behavior of the actual fly barless unit. If you fly, we've got an AR7200BX in here, Spectrum. So we know the B-Stex. Oh, it flies familiar to a B-Stex. Now, with that in consideration, then, the helicopter does have to translate that feel of the B-Stex to that head, to all of the dynamics that are built into this helicopter and its performance. So you can very easily take that B-Stex, drop it in another helicopter that's poorly designed, and say, well, this thing's kind of, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, it's not the B-Stex at that point. You may have to make some adjustments to get it to behave more like what you expect it to.
Sure.
But, so I look at it, whenever I fly it and the B-Stex is in there, I know what the B-Stex feels like. I've flown on enough platforms. I know what that helicopter should feel like. Based on its size, the larger mass, the larger rotating disc, it's going to have some characteristics that are going to be inherent to a 700 size. But how well, right off the bat, did that B-Stex fly on that platform? And in the case of the Mostro, it was extremely good.
Yeah.
We didn't have any bad tendencies as far as the head dynamics themselves. The response from the head felt good. It felt very familiar. It felt very comfortable. So they do on the actual linkage setup. They have some geometries, and they give you some really good guidance in that in the instruction manual about eliminating some of that bias that takes place at pitch extents. So right, if you're normally flying, you're at neutral pitch. You've got the servos deflected. So they concentrate on good geometry at deflection versus, okay, let's set it all up at neutral, and you've got 90-90, 90 degrees, perfect 90 degrees from the servo horn up to the linkage. And that's what, that was the old school way of setting it up. It's like, okay, that was always a test on the bench. Can I look at it from front, from the side? Does all my linkage look perfectly straight? Okay, it's good. Well, as soon as you start deflecting now, all of a sudden, you've got angles. You've got geometry angles that are taking place, and you're going to have more travel on the servo, less travel on the head itself, or the pitch arms.
Yep.
So what they concentrate on in the setup is let it angle at neutral. You should be about this many degrees pitch, and shoot for this distance on your servo horns. And then when you get up to pitch, you've got your good geometry going on. It's more of a one-to-one. So all of that worked well. Default setup, single servo, 90 degree in the radio system, and then of course 120 degree on the head. And it was very comfortable. There was no adjustments. There was, why is it doing this? Why is it going kind of crazy when I do some heavy off-axis maneuvers, or I start trying to rotate about that ball, and that's really when it comes down. If you want to see your head geometry, you start rotating about that ball and see how much pitch deflection you have to throw in there, and if it's walking off center. And it did a really good job. As far as tail authority goes, it's there. There's rigidity throughout the entire monoblock design. We didn't have any kind of problems with tail authority related to frame rigidity.
Yeah.
So, you know, it has a good CG as it's set up by default. Slightly tail heavy, and I wonder maybe, you know, if we had like the buffer battery on there on the ESC, on the Contronic ESC, that would give us just enough weight to be able to level us out about perfect. But it's not bad. You know, you pick it up on its side, the tail doesn't slam down. It goes down. It's a little bit tail heavy.
Yeah.
But you know, from that perspective, I like the way it flew. You know, it has its own. You know, and a lot of that again goes down to the components you choose. If you put bad servos in there or slow or weak servos, you're going to have effects there. The test comes in time as you run it, and you really run it in, and you know, you look at that durability, that long-term durability.
Yeah.
Is it going to maintain that flight envelope, or is it going to start moving outside of that flight envelope? Like, you know, starting to. Typically on a helicopter, if you maintain it well and you haven't any crashes, it's, you know, it's going to hold up for a long time.
Holds up. All right. It brings us to turnaround time. You've got it marked down as long.
This is, if there's any area where the Mostro, if you try to just pick on it, you know, pick a fight with the Mostro, what's the one thing you'd go after? What's the weakness?
Oh, I'd go after that tail. I don't like that black and red. What's he thinking?
What's wrong with the black and red?
It doesn't go with yellow and black.
Okay,
oh,
so
we're
if
not
we
picking on
really
that
look
kind.
at something functional and not pure aesthetics.
Oh, okay.
Turnaround time. Turnaround time is a big issue. You see the 4 screws sitting here on the bench. Those are what's required to turn this thing around on the ground.
Yeah.
2 canopy screws and 2 front plate screws to be able to slide that tray out. I don't like it. I like the helicopter. I like the way it flies. I like the way it's built. I like a lot of the engineering design concepts. I love the rigid core head. I like the whole rigidity of the unsupported boom. And there's so many things I do like. If there was one thing, and it's funny because I'm very polarized. I love all those things. I'm really, really happy with the performance. I hate that setup. I don't like it. That's just me. You know, a lot of helicopters, you got to pop the canopy off to get the battery out.
That's like me saying, you know, I like you as a person, but I hate your skeleton.
Exactly.
You know, you can't change that. That's just how it's designed.
You can't. I would have rather seen some sort of linkage sacrifice to get this tail rotor servo. You know, I never like seeing the old school boom mount because it's so flexible.
You got to lift this up and slide this all the way. See how I can't do that.
You don't know what you're doing.
I do.
You have no idea. Yeah. Good else, dude. You have to take these 2 back canopy screws off, and then you got to take the 2 screws out to be able to get that lifted up. Then
it doesn't
to be able
slide
to slide
out
the tray out.
Yeah, so you got to slide this whole tray
this whole
out.
thing out all the way.
I'm gonna do it too, so you have to put it back in.
Yeah.
Oh, now
what
I'm
happened?
done. It's hung up on these. Nope, we're good. Hold on.
Nope.
Oh my gosh.
Therein
okay,
lies the problem.
I'm not. Oh, I can't get it back.
There's your turnaround time.
There we go.
Difficulty is
I understand what you're saying.
Avant goes, they like that very skinny design.
Yeah.
Very slender. And when you come in on your autos, from a flight characteristics perspective, that's a little bit of a ding there, but it's autos.
Well,
you come in an auto, you usually get a little bit topsy-turvy, and it has very narrow skids. It has plenty of length, but they're very narrow skids.
So this battery tray is really a double-edged sword because it does allow you to quite a bit of breathing room for battery choice.
For larger cells, yeah.
But I can
Doesn't
see
give
what
you
you're
width.
saying with all that Velcro around it. It's hard to slide out.
You've got to be very, very methodical about the placement of your Velcro and how tightly things come in. And you're going to buy 2, 3, 4 trays or whatever to put your packs on.
Sure.
So it's not like you're pulling the batteries off every time. And the trays are cheap comparatively, right? Because they're not a complex unit with hinges and screws or springs or anything. But you just exhibited part of the long-term round time is getting that thing slid all the way out of that frame. But then also, that's after you take out 4 screws. And
so basically what you're saying is unless you're a pro pilot that's being sponsored and has his own pit crew that takes care of those things, you're not going to enjoy taking
all
that
you
out.
need to be is a pilot with more patience than me.
Oh,
which is, you know what? So somebody with more patience than me would say, nah,
it's pretty much
it's
anybody.
fine.
You have your attention span, patience, it's all about.
If they'd have screwed up a lot of areas on this, like, DFC head's got a lot of, low RPM wobble and blah, blah, blah. They didn't.
You would overlook
works
all
great,
that.
works great, love it, love the design, what,
Yeah. Okay, I get it. You're allowed
you
that.
got to put it in perspective, Rob.
Hey, it's clear. Perspective is clear.
All right.
All right, let's go to performance range because I'm tired of hearing you whine. Performance range, we've got an Aerobatic Pro.
Yeah, it does old school aerobatics very well. Again, with the behavior of the rigid core head and not having any kind of DFC tendencies, you got a wide RPM range, so you can really have fun with it. Like you used to take, some of our old, if we got one battery left fully charged at the pack, you put a little series jumper in there and pop it in and fly it, and it'd be real slow, slow RPM, but you could do, real slow aerobatics with it and stuff. With the DFC heads, a lot of times it's like, it's not that stable. It doesn't feel that good doing it at all.
Yeah.
This behaves so much better than what, I say much better. I'm not trying to say this has solved any and all DFC problems, but that rigid core head behaves so well. Maybe as the dampeners start to break in a little bit more, because we got a really firm dampening on a DFC head. Maybe as that breaks in a little bit more, it'll exhibit some of those problems. But it had that kind of non-DFC feel to it, more so. Keeping up the inertia on autos. It didn't feel like it was just losing all of its RPM on autos and stuff. So that makes it, very comfortable for a slower fly, normal mode, getting used to it, and then into, of course, bang it as hard as you want to.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to step the power up. We've got the 700 in there. I'd have gone to 750 or the 800 if you really want to get hardcore. If you want to start throwing 14 degrees pitch, because the way it's set up right now, the servo arms, the manual requires a specific length for your linkage placement where your ball is, and it doesn't fall in a standard servo hole at all. You're either shorter or you're longer.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what do I do? Shorter, longer. I'll try shorter. See if I can get away with it. Well, I couldn't. So I had less than 14 degree deflection. I was closer right around 12, just shy of 12. So I couldn't tax a power plant nearly as much as if I'd had full 14 degrees of deflection. Well, as soon as you do that, now you're going to get your tail blow out if your RPM dips, if you've got any inherent problems at all, if you've got the wrong size blades or anything. There's more problems that are going to start exhibiting themselves the more you get into that pitch range. So if to go beyond what it's set up for right now for flying, I'd step up to the 750, maybe even the 800 motor and run it at that. And then you could just pile drive it all you want up in the air. So that definitely, Aerobatic the Pro has a good range, a nice operational range.
Okay, repair costs, average.
We talked about the part quality. Repair costs, one thing that Avant has done, even as a U.S. company, is they've worked with their suppliers to where they've kept their parts and their kitting cost and their part cost down to the Chinese plants and stuff, the Chinese offshore manufacturers that can be so cost competitive.
Yeah.
So we're seeing average repair costs come through. Of course, your big ticket items, with this being a very large, beefy, oversized tail, that's a lot of carbon fiber.
Yeah.
That's a more expensive piece. Your primary transmission block, the forward parts of your monoblock, which are always the expensive things.
Yeah.
You start blasting your head to pieces. But with it only being a two-piece frame, come on, 2 pieces of carbon fiber and you're replacing entire main frame, and then canopies always hurt.
Oh yeah.
Canopies are always, because they're painted and they're custom out. So.
Yep. All right, last category is skill level, advanced.
Yeah,
Kind of speaks for itself, I think.
If you were just moving into this class, it's not going to exhibit any tendencies that I would steer you away from, where we've flown some other DFC helicopters that I wouldn't say, hey, it's a great first, even though it's the right size, I wouldn't say, hey, it's a great first big or large class heli, just because of some of those characteristics. With this thing being so well behaved, if you're moving into the class and you want to spend the money and make this level of commitment, absolutely, as long as your skill set's there. And your skill set, by the time you go to a large, powerful CP helicopter, should be at the edge of intermediate to advanced anyway, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with flying an aircraft this size. If you want to talk about our industry and our products, the only ones that have ever caused any lethal damage have been this close to this scale, actually slightly smaller than, but then this scale of this size helicopter. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with it.
Yeah.
And that requires more autonomous piloting reactions versus, I'm still learning, wait a minute, oh, I got screwed up, I'm turned around backwards. Well, and then it goes out of control and you're trying to think, wait a minute, which one's throttle hold, which one's this, which one's that. You want it to be more, okay, I just shut her down and now it's crashing.
I have to talk to Avant, see if I can't put my 2 cents in for an idea for one. Get 700 size electric coaxial.
Oh my gosh.
Instead of the Mostro, we'll call it the Maestro.
Maestro.
That's right.
Yeah. 700 size.
Might spend my money on that
coaxial, yeah. You can stroll up to the flight line with that and set it down.
Hey, if my money ain't good enough for him. Come on, let's finish this up. I heard the ice cream truck around the corner.
Oh, hurry up, Rob.
Let's go.
All right.
Come on, he's going to be down the other street. I have to run.
Well, that wraps up our review of the Avant Mostro 700E. You can go to our website if you just want to find out more details. For our mobile users, you can go to rcflightsource.com, download our mobile app, and take our content with you on the go. I'm Kurt with True Brothers Hobby.
And I'm Rob. Thanks for watching.